Today is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Lord have mercy. Y'all, in the Diddy trial, prosecutors called a security guard where Sean Diddy Combs was caught on video assaulting his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Legal analyst Candace Kelley will join us today breaking down the explosive testimony. A national leader in criminal justice reform files a class action lawsuit against the Department of Justice after the sudden termination of $820 million in grant funding. We'll talk to some folks involved in that. New York primary race coming up soon. We'll talk with one of the candidates, Michael Blake, about why he wants to be the next mayor of New York City. That's right, contentious race there, folks. Also, on today's show, Elon Musk is now ripping apart Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. Ain't it interesting how fast that works? Plus, in our shop marketplace segment, we're spotlighting the HBCU Legacy Fashion, a brand that redefines how families celebrate their HBCU pride. And folks, what happens when you're a member of Congress like Marjorie Taylor Greene and then you complain about a bill and then you admit, oh, damn, I didn't even read it. Oh, my God, she's getting ripped apart on social media. There's a lot we're going to break it down, y'all. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Well, the Sean Diddy Combs trial, prosecutors have called Eddie Garcia, the security supervisor at the Los Angeles hotel where Combs was caught on video brutally assaulting his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in March 2016. That video, of course, went worldwide when it was aired by CNN and also ABC. You see how he brutally beat and kicks Cassie. The security guard supervisor allegedly received $100 grand for himself and two other employees for helping Combs keep the music mogul's beating under wraps. That was a huge part of today's trial. Candace Kelley, legal analyst, joins us to tell us what happened. That's kind of a huge deal there. Walk us through that testimony, Candace.
Yeah, well, as you said, Eddie Garcia, he took the stand. As you said, he was a hotel supervisor. He was making about $10.50 an hour working at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. We've all seen that video. He testified that Sean Combs bribed him with $100,000 in cash, in paper bags. He handed it over, asking him to bury the footage of Cassie Ventura. Now, we need to know that Garcia, he has an immunity deal, meaning that whatever he testified to today, there is not going to be any further prosecution, of course, unless he perjures himself, but nothing incriminating can be held against him. He said that on March 5th, 2016, he did hear that there was some type of disturbance, some type of domestic dispute at the hotel. He said that during the next 48 hours, he got a call. He continued to be hounded by Sean Combs' head of staff. We've all heard of this chief of staff, Christina Coram. And she said that they needed Eddie to help the video go away. He says that Coram then put a very, very nervous sounding Sean Combs on the phone. And Sean Combs said, look, I was drunk. These things happen. He says, quote, I had too much to drink. With women, one thing leads to another. And if this got out, it will ruin me. So Garcia went on to tell him, look, I do not have access to those digital files, that footage that you're looking for. And Combs said, you know what? I think you can work it out, because if you do, I have something for you. It was at this time that Garcia went to his boss, told him about the situation. Garcia's boss said, you know what? We can do it for $50,000. Garcia goes back, tells Combs, we can do it for $50,000. On the stand, he testified that Combs sounded very excited about this deal. At that point, Combs came down with $100,000 in cash. Eddie Garcia split it with two other security guards. And then something happened that was very interesting. First of all, he said that a few weeks later on Easter, he got a bizarre phone call from Combs. And Combs said, hey, happy Easter. You're my angel. God is good. God put you in my life for a reason. He also told Garcia at one time, listen, with this money, I don't know what you're going to do with it, but make sure you do not spend it on anything lavish. You don't want to be too showy about it. Also, Combs asked Garcia, what are you going to be doing with the money? Garcia actually went ahead and he paid $30,000 for a used car in cash. That is how he spent the money. So there was a lot going on in court today. This was huge news because, Roland, as we know, we've all been hearing about this, but finally you're hearing it from someone who actually took the money. It was an interesting day. And might I add that even before Garcia took the stand, there was a woman who had to be escorted out of the court this morning. She was removed from the courtroom. She was a regular person from the public. As you know, anyone can attend the trial. She took a seat, but before the jury was seated, she started yelling, Diddy, they're coming after you, those MFers. She said, Combs, they're laughing at you. They're laughing at a black man's legacy, end quote. So even before Garcia took the stand, there was a lot of rumble in this here courtroom, and it certainly continued to rumble throughout the day, especially with this explosive testimony.
So, okay, so what's crazy here is they talk about the payment coming from him. But only he testifies. Are they going to bring in the supervisor? Are they going to bring in other people as well?
You know, listen, I would imagine that they would want to bring in everyone. The more, the better, to kind of corroborate what he is saying. I also want to point out that he signed a non-disclosure agreement and said that if he did say anything about this, that he'd have to pay $1 million. So this might be enough to say, hey, you know, we've got the main person that took the $100,000 and split it with the other two people. Sometimes you don't want to go overkill. I will tell you that there are some points during this trial where people are falling asleep and it gets to be a lot. And as we know, they cut the trial down by some time. And I think that with this particular witness, they get the whole story. And unless there are other security guards that can add something to this, I would say with Mr. Garcia, we kind of sealed the deal here on this potential obstruction of justice and bribery.
Wow, that is a whole lot going on in the courtroom today. In any sense of Combs' demeanor as this was playing out.
Yeah, well, you know, he was very calm. I mean, one of the things that you have to understand is that when he comes into a courtroom, he definitely wants to make sure that everybody in that courtroom knows he is okay. If you are sitting there, he will turn around, he will look you in the eye, he will thank people. Sometimes he talks to people in the courtroom. Oh, I see you're pregnant. When are you due? He's very cordial. It is like he is still the Sean Combs we know in that little moment. Many other times, he's passing notes on Post-it notes, leaning over to the lawyer. But I would say that today didn't stick out any different than any other day. There was only one day where he seemed particularly flustered, and I'm not sure why. But I can imagine with all this hanging over his head, there's good reason. But today he was calm, cool, and collected.
With all that you've heard thus far, now, Grant, let's be real clear. The prosecution is still putting on their case. The defense has not put on their case, even though they're allowed to cross-examine. Are you surprised that on a couple occasions, a plea bargain was turned down?
Oh, I'm very surprised because what he said by turning down a bargain was that I'm going to leave it up to chance. This means that I could get 15 plus 10%. This means I'm going to jail for the rest of my life. But Sean Combs is actually not the type of person to seem like he would take a plea bargain. Here's the other thing. While a plea bargain was offered, and by the way, a plea bargain can be offered all the way up into deliberation, so the door isn't closed. But the fact that he was offered a plea deal, we don't know what those details were. But I would imagine that it was at least in the double digits. I don't think they would have said, here's the plea deal, 3 years. 3 years, I'm Sean Combs, I get time served. I'm going to take that.
Yeah.
It probably was in the double digits, and that's why he said no. Remember, he sped up this trial because he doesn't even want to be in that detention center. That's why we're here so quickly. I can't imagine that that plea deal wasn't less than a two-digit number for him.
All right, then. Candace, we surely appreciate the breakdown. Thanks a lot.
All right. Good to see you, Roland.
All right, folks, going to a break. We come back. We're going to talk about the craziness on Capitol Hill. Let's see. Elon, not happy at all with the big, beautiful bill. And so now MAGA is firing back at him. Now we got Joni Ernst getting ripped because of her Medicaid cuts comment. Marjorie Taylor Greene getting blasted for now opposing the part of the House bill that says states can't impose AI standards for at least a decade. Then she admits, I didn't read it. I told y'all MAGA is stupid. They're proving it every single day. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
This week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie, we're talking all things faith, family, and fatherhood. Men step in and out of our lives in a variety of ways as fathers, uncles, cousins, and different ways in which we enjoy their company and presence, and in other ways when they get on our nerves. This week on our show, we'll be talking about what it means to be a father, how women can support the men in their lives, as well as how do we heal the wounds that we've had from poor conversation, lack of desire, and all of the other ways that we sometimes as women check out and cause our men to feel emasculated. That's all this week on A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Hello, I'm Paula J. Parker. Truly proud on the Proud Family, Louder and Prouder on Disney+. And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, so last night we showed you the couple of clips of Iowa Senator Joni Ernst when she made this comment regarding Medicaid, well, we're all going to die. Of course, you had the initial comment where she made that, and then, of course, she followed it up by posting a video shot in a cemetery where she, frankly, was trolling folks who criticized her. Well, today, reporters on Capitol Hill decided to ask her about it, and, smart ass wasn't too happy about getting questioned.
I'm very compassionate, and you need to listen to the entire conversation.
Do you have any regrets about that?
We want to protect the most vulnerable.
Senator, is it not a valid concern people have that they may lose their health care or that others may die? Is that not a valid concern?
Or just even with the apology over the weekend, do you want to just...
No, it's not off. All right. I don't know. Yeah, mic is on. Did she actually say, did y'all see the apology? This bullshit?
Hello, everyone.
What was the deal?
I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement that I made yesterday at my town hall. See, I was in the process of answering a question that had been asked by an audience member when a woman who was extremely distraught screamed out from the back corner of the auditorium, "People are going to die." And I made an incorrect assumption that everyone in the auditorium understood that, yes, we are all going to perish from this earth. So I apologize. And I'm really, really glad that I did not have to bring up the subject of the tooth fairy as well. But for those that would like to see eternal and everlasting life, I encourage you to embrace my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Talk about arrogance. Iowa Democratic State Representative J.D. Scholten called her comments callous and dismissive. He also has confirmed he is running against Ernst when her term ends next year, saying she has disrespected Iowans on far too many occasions. All right, let's talk about this with our panel. Joining us right now, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA out of D.C., Joe Richardson, civil rights attorney out of Los Angeles, Dr. Julian Malvo, economist, president emerita, Bennett College, author of Surviving and Thriving, 365 Facts in Black Economic History out of D.C. Glad to have all three of you here. Pretty arrogant there, Mustafa. From Joni Ernst, and this idea that, oh, I was being so compassionate. No, you weren't. Just stop.
It's dangerously arrogant. You know, the callousness is most definitely there, but this is dangerous rhetoric because it actually shows you who these folks are, who they value, what they value. And for someone to actually play with people's lives like this, you know, it's a shame that we have elected officials who have the power to actually help people, to uplift people, to help them to take something from Julian, to move from surviving to thriving, and refuse to do it, and to be so callous with people's lives. You know, when we look at the actions that they've been continually doing, not only are they cutting the safety net from folks, but they're literally pushing people under the water. You know, taking away people's opportunities to have at least basic health care in place, you know, making sure that folks have the food and the nutrition that they need to actually be able to, you know, help them to strengthen their bodies. So for someone to say that everyone is going to die, yes, eventually we all will die, but why are you all continually trying to speed up the process?
That really is the case, Julian. These people are crass, they're shameful, they're despicable, and they're showing exactly who they are.
Exactly. I mean, this woman, well, she's consistently ignorant, so we shouldn't be surprised. But I was surprised at the callousness of it. And then the flip, forgive my language, the flip ass walking through the cemetery talking about everybody's going to die. The fact is that every 18 minutes, somebody dies because they don't have health care. Every 18 minutes. The fact is that, yes, we all going to die, but we die differently. Question, I wrote a column today. We're all going to die, but how and when? If, in fact, the average white man has a 66% life expectancy. No, I'm sorry. Average black man has a 66 life expectancy. White men, 71. We go down and we see the differences. And so who dies, how, and why? And when we look at the leading causes of death, many of them have racial implications. So the war, the Trumpian war against black people continues with this, I call it the big ugly, you know, with the big ugly that even Elon Musk has had to say something about. How do you transfer dollars from Medicaid? These are the poorest people, from Medicaid to the wealthy. And that's literally what they're doing. Shame on Joni Ernst but also shame on her colleagues who probably would not articulate such callousness, but certainly believe in it. And we see the ways that they believe in it in terms of the way this bill, Republican Senate Majority Leader says he wants this bill on the that person's desk by July 4th. We know that they go out usually in August. So they're fast tracking this thing. They're fast tracking many people to death.
This is why, to watch what's going on here really is crazy. Joe, you heard Julian reference Elon Musk. This is Musk. He tweets, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." And then he goes, "It will massively increase the already gigantic budget deficit to $2.5 trillion and burden America's citizens with crushingly unsustainable debt." Then I saw earlier he had tweeted something which I was just absolutely cracking up laughing. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull it up. See if I can pull this up. This was just too much for me. How it was like, oh my God. And then, he made this reference about how folks who voted for this need to be targeted next year in the election. And I'm like, fool, you the one who helped put Donald Trump there. What are you talking about? You know, but again, it's like, oh, all of a sudden now y'all running from what's going on? Yeah, we hashtag we tried to tell you.
Yeah, well, that's pretty disingenuous, even on Elon Musk's part. He might have a kernel of truth here and there as it pertains to exploding the debt, but he's not talking about getting rid of tax breaks for the most wealthy, et cetera. And so, so that's interesting that he would have something to say about it at all, but it's a little bit of a sideshow. This senator, it's interesting. She did a bunch of things at once. She showed, a fundamental insensitivity and this theme that when you speak truth, about the effect that these things that these people are advancing, that the Republicans are advancing, you're being divisive, you're being untruthful. No, you're not being untruthful. Medicaid is going to get cut away. These things that are vital to people's existences are going to get cut away. And then on top of all of it, she's going to throw Jesus in it too. So in other words, now that I've been divisive, now that I've shown you that I have no care for the least of us, now that I've shown you that I have no sensitivity and no reason for anybody to connect to what I'm saying from a humanity standpoint, now I'm inviting you to my Savior. Okay, fantastic. So now what we get to do is we get to make more atheists because you got Joni Ernst reminding folks that do what they do on Saturday, why they don't go to church on Sunday. I mean, it's just really crazy, that this is going the way that it's going. But people have to continue to sound the alarm and speak truth. Just speak truth. It's not divisive to say that you're taking money from people and for those that are the least of us and doing tax breaks for the wealthy. That's precisely what you're doing.
I'm really getting a kick out of the chickens coming home to roost and how all of these people, Mustafa, now have to own up to their BS. Go to my iPad, Henry. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been getting ripped because Democrats have been pointing out that what this bill does is this bill actually does not allow states to regulate AI for a decade. Now, keep in mind, Republicans are always talking about how they believe in small government, how they believe that, less government intrusion, but they love to tell other folk what to do. And so look at this idiot. She goes, full transparency. I did not know about this section on pages 278, 279 of the OBBB that strips states of the right to make laws or regulate AI for 10 years. I am adamantly opposed to this, and it is a violation of states' rights, and I would have voted no if I had known this was in there, because you didn't read it. We have no idea what AI will be capable of in the next 10 years, and giving it free rein and tying states' hands is potentially dangerous. This needs to be stripped out in the Senate. When the OBBB comes back to the House for approval after Senate changes, I will not vote for it with this in it. We should be reducing federal power and preserving state power, not the other way around, especially with rapidly developing AI that even the experts warn they have no idea what it may be capable of. Well, maybe, Mustafa, if that dumbass had used AI to ask what was in the bill, it would have read it for her dumbass.
You read my mind. You read my mind. You know, it's interesting. I continue to say it, and I know some people don't like it, but you got a whole bunch of unqualified folks who are there. You have congresspersons who are unqualified, and we see it play out every day in front of us. Evidently, they have staff that is also unqualified and uneducated, because if you had a good chief of staff or a legislative director, one of their jobs is making sure that you are well briefed and that before you go in to cast your vote, that you've been able to work through all the various things to make the best decision. We've got an electorate that continues to not take the seriousness of their vote and putting these types of people in office. So then you end up being hurt by the same people that you put into office. And then if you want to talk about AI or a couple of the other sort of priority issues that we as a country have to get our arms around, and you're not taking it serious and understanding all the possibilities, both positive and negative, that these future sets of actions that these tools will bring, then once again, you're not doing your job. You're supposed to be putting whoever put you in office in the best position for their lives to be, uplifted. But you have these people who are unqualified, who are unprepared, and who are unserious about the job that they were hired to do.
I just sit here and watch these fools, Julian, because I mean, it's not just her. They're getting ripped apart in all sort of town hall meetings, getting blasted left and right for not actually reading the bill. You know, and it gets even better because, you know, you've got this so-called Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. This idiot was on Capitol Hill today, and the questioning was absolutely just perfect. If you want to see stupidity in action, this is what happens when you put a wrestling executive over the Department of Education because she's dumb. Watch.
Chairman.
Very much. Senator Mullen.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Chair, what's the definition of insanity?
Of sanity or insanity?
Insanity.
Insanity?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Right. And what was we ranked in reading and math in 1979?
I'm sorry, what?
What was we ranked nationally in math and
Okay, hold on, stop. I'm sorry. Did that man say what was we ranked? I know,
Roland.
I know, hold on, drop the lower third. I want y'all to see. The tweet says, Mullen, what were we ranked nationally in math and reading in 1979? Y'all, this is a Republican. I know what the lower third says. I know what the tweet says, but I want y'all to now listen. Again, audio all the way up. I need y'all to listen. This boy here didn't go to English class. Listen.
Very much. Senator Mullen.
Thank you, Chairman. Madam Chair, what's the definition of insanity?
Of sanity or insanity?
Insanity.
Insanity?
Yeah.
Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Right. And what was we ranked in reading and math in 1979?
I'm sorry, what?
What was we ranked nationally in math and reading in 1979?
We were very, very low on the totem pole.
We were number one in 1979. Today.
Oh, in 1979.
1979.
Sorry. Okay.
In 1979, we were ranked number one in around the world.
First, she act like she didn't hear it. Your ass heard him say 1979. And she just spits out, we were low on the totem pole. We were ranked number 1. So he's so dumb, Julian, that she showed her ineptness in the answer, but his ass said twice, what was we ranked in 1979?
Stop it, Roland. You're going to make me fall out of my chair laughing. I mean, the ignorance, the utter ignorance. No, he didn't go to English class, didn't go to math class, didn't go to any class, but guess what? Neither did she. She's woefully unprepared. She's woefully unprepared. For
hold up. I should have known. I mean, because, he's a United States Senator from Oklahoma. And we know where they rank when it comes to, oh, yeah, that's right. He's the dude with the plumbing business. Okay.
So I guess, yes. So who sends out his invoices? They say we won't.
Yeah, him and his wife, they've expanded Mullen Plumbing to become the largest service company in the region. They have Mullen Environmental to Rowan Steakhouse. I wonder, this they family, I hope they asses know English.
They probably don't. The apple don't fall far from the tree. This is a disgrace. It's an utter disgrace to have, first of all, such an ignorant United States senator, but more importantly and more frighteningly, to have a Secretary of Education who is uneducated, is apparently clearly.
Where was we ranked? His state, Julian, is 48th in education.
Well,
I was going to put it at the bottom 5, so thank you.
No, it's the bottom 3.
Okay.
Where was we ranked? Julia, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, this is hilarious. The way that they're running the government is hilarious. And the challenge, of course, is that our young people are the ones that are going to pay for this. When you have a dummy and a fool on a collision course, the collateral damage is our kids.
Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. And here's listen, I've been known to miss a word here or there myself. You know what I mean? But before I got into more, intelligent digs. I was always a smart kid, so I'm a little left.
But you ain't double down.
And
you like if you said the first time, where was we ranked? Oh, hold up,
I just said that. Get it right the first time. But here's what I'm saying is,
I just said that. Let me recalibrate that. What were we ranked in 1979? No, his Bama ass. I didn't hear your question. What was we ranked in 1979?
Yeah, let me say it bad again. But my thing is this. Listen, it's one thing to Julianne's point. Listen, he don't talk too good, doesn't talk too well. See how I fixed it after the first time? But if he was actually competent, then I'd say, well, he doesn't sound like too much, but they seem like they can add and subtract. The worst thing I can say about them is that, presentation aside, what they're presenting, what they're bringing, what they're doing from a competence standpoint is so woefully inadequate. And so there is an irony that on top of that, they don't seem to like to speak in clear English, particularly when they want to point out other folks and what they think other folks' problems and faults are. This is what they define to be DEI, the negatives of DEI. If DEI was a negative thing, we would be looking at it with them.
Y'all know I'm being real petty. So these people have now go to my iPad. These people have posted on Twitter. This one person put, "What were we ranked?" I was like, no. What was we ranked?
Right. He needed that emphasis. That was, what was we ranked? Sometimes that helps you with your swang and your swagger. So I guess I understand it a little bit.
There ain't no swag in that. There is no swag in improper English. If my mama were alive and she was next to me, she'd with a ruler, because that's what she used to do with us when we split verbs and use improper English. Hit him with a ruler. So, I mean, of course, he's probably been hit so many times that has caused part of his lack of cognition.
Sometimes it feels good to say ain't. You know what I mean? I get it, I guess, but
in a Senate hearing, I don't think so.
I think
in the bar, maybe.
So yeah, there's certainly an irony there for sure. So
yeah, that's why I'm sitting here correcting this tweet. Yes, I'm tagging his ass too. No, Oklahoma Senator Mullen asked, what was we ranked? He did it twice. Oklahoma is ranked 48th nationally in education. Clearly, hold up, let me be real. I told you I'm petty. Let's see. Clearly, he is Exhibit A. Send. Okay. All right. All right. I just want to go ahead and get that out. There was another exchange that I thought was really funny. It was Linda McMahon and Senator Chris Murphy. The issue came up about Harvard and them ending DEI. Now, this exchange was too funny, y'all. About them ending DEI, but they still wanted DEI when it came to conservatives. It was like, okay, I'm sorry, is that what y'all want? So let me go ahead and set this up. So again, they're against DEI, but they want DEI when it comes to stuff that they want. I told you these folk are dumb. Go.
Changes. You told them that they had to end all of their diversity programs, but that they had to institute viewpoint diversity. That doesn't seem to make sense. How do you tell them to end all their diversity programs? And we assume that this is a mandate that you will make of other schools as well. How do you ask them to end diversity programs while instituting viewpoint diversity? Those seems to be totally contradictory.
No, the diversity programs that we've asked and demanded to be eliminated were the DEI, where they were, those programs actually were pitting one group against another.
Isn't viewpoint diversity a diversity program?
A viewpoint diversity is exchange of ideas that's actually better, absolutely. Now here, because Harvard only has 3% by its own numbers, 3% conservative faculty. Do you think they are allowing enough of viewpoint diversity through that teaching?
Where in the statute does it give you the ability to cut off federal funding for a university based upon your decision, your determination that they don't have viewpoint diversity? Can you cite to a statute, an authority that Congress has given you to micromanage the viewpoint diversity of a college?
Well, certainly well, no, let's back up.
Well, no. I think that's really important. I'm going to answer your question. Can you cite a statute? Because you can't cut off funding for universities unless you have a statutory authorization to do so. So what statute gives you the right to tell any university that they have to have a certain mixture of viewpoints?
So here's what happened with Harvard.
No, it's a pretty simple. I don't mean to provide a being hostile.
Well, I have to give you some.
I think you have to cite the statute.
The statute's Title VI. These were civil rights violations. That is why we filed a case and defunded or stopped the funding for a while for Harvard, as well as we did Columbia. And in that conversation with them, we talked about different things that they should do coming back to the table to make their programming better. The president of Columbia absolutely indicated, as well as the president of Harvard, that they needed to do things on their campus to eliminate anti-Semitism. That was kind of the crux of what brought us into talking to the different universities. And then we sat down with them to say, okay, these are other issues that you need to address on your campus because you do receive federal funding. And under federal funding, if you are breaking the law, which they did under Title VI.
I don't understand any conception of civil rights law to give you the authorization to micromanage viewpoint diversity on campus. That's not authorized under the civil rights title provided to you by the United States Congress.
Now, isn't that amazing? So they literally are saying, Joe, we can use the civil rights law. That's the statute. Actually, what Senator Chris Murphy should have said when she couldn't answer, he should have said, Secretary McMahon, statute. STATUTE. He should have spelled it because she had no idea what the hell it is. Okay, so what he should have done was he should have spelled it out. And she's saying the civil rights law, and you saw how she went, well, we're dealing with anti-Semitism. We know the civil rights law talks about discrimination when it comes to age, race, gender, but also religion. But now y'all getting it. Oh, then after that, there was some other thing. No, hold up. Yeah, there's nothing in the Civil Rights Statute, Title VI, that she said, that speaks to the issue of ideology. That's not covered by the Civil Rights Statute. Joe.
It's not covered under the Civil Rights Law. So for those of you that weren't sure, you want to just kind of buy all of this, wholesale without thinking about it, without having any thought, without applying any intellectual exercise to it. Yeah, be it confirmed that there is no such thing as a viewpoint being a protected classification under federal law. That's right. This is totally made up. It's totally manufactured. And this whole thing, I'm still waiting for him to understand, to help me understand, help me see how it is that getting rid of DEI actually helps you with anti-Semitism.
This right here, go to my iPad, Henry. This right here, y'all, is literally from the Department of Justice website. And it says, Title VI was enacted as part of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance, not ideology.
That's right. Ideology is nowhere to be found there. And so, but this is consistent, this par for the course for what it is that they're going to do. They're going to take the civil rights law, make it mean what they want to. So what they're looking for are white people that are being discriminated against, and they actually are pragmatic enough to go and help, South African, white Afrikaners that are being discriminated against. Yep. Bring them over, use tax dollars, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, there is no protection for viewpoint. That is not a protected classification, and I'm glad Harvard's fighting on that end.
Absolutely crazy. But it's the sheer ineptness of the people who are in charge. Let me go to a quick break. We come back. We're going to talk with one of the candidates running for mayor of New York City. The primary is in 3 weeks. That'll be next. Folks, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Stud Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your support is critical for the work that we do, not just for this show, but the other shows on the network. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. You can also go to blackstudnetwork.com to be able to access the QR code. Check your money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, of course, and send it to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We featured the brand new work of Professor Angie Porter, which, simply put, is a revolutionary reframing of the African experience in this country. It's the one legal article everyone, and I mean everyone, should read. Professor Porter and Dr. Valencia Watkins, our legal roundtable team, join us to explore the paper that I guarantee is going to prompt a major aha moment in our culture.
You crystallize it by saying, who are we to other people? Who are African people to others? Governance is our thing. Who are we to each other? The structures we create for ourselves, how we order the universe as African people.
That's next on The Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, have you ever had $1 million idea and wondered how to bring it to life? Well, it's all about turning problems into opportunities. On our next Get Wealthy, you'll learn of a woman who identified the overload bag syndrome, and now she's taking that money to the bank through global sales in major department stores.
And I was just struggling with 2 or 3 bags on the train. And I looked around on the train and I said, you know what? There are a lot of women that are carrying two or three bags.
That's right here on Get Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Now that Roland Martin is willing to give me the blueprint, hey, Cyrus, I need to go to Tyler Perry and get another blueprint because I need some green money. The only way I can do what I'm doing, I need to make some money. So you'll see me working with Roland. Matter of fact, it's the Roland Martin and Cheryl Underwood Show. Well, should it be the Cheryl Underwood Show and the Roland Martin Show? Well, whatever show it's going to be good.
Folks, in 3 weeks, voters in New York City go to the polls to elect the Democratic primary and Republican primary, the next mayor of New York. Of course, Mayor Eric Adams is the incumbent, facing a number of people running against him. I mean, look, it's just a huge field. Of course, looking at various polls, former Governor Andrew Cuomo is leading in the race. One of the folks who's running is former State Assemblyman Michael Blake. He joins us right now. I'm glad to have you here. First and foremost, Michael, it is a lot happening in this race, lots of candidates. How do you distinguish yourself? How do you set yourself apart in order to be competitive in this campaign?
Well, look, Roland, it's good to be with you always, and I appreciate that you were dropping all the knowledge about the foolishness of Lyndon McMahon just a segment ago. Look, tomorrow's a major night for us. It is the first time that we will have a debate with 9 of us on stage. It will be the first time that we have actually been on stage with Andrew Cuomo, who has avoided being with us on stage this entire time since he's been in the race. And as we've been talking through the responsibility of how we address affordability, what do we do address anti-Blackness, how are we actually holding police accountable, having criminal justice, none of those conversations have been happening at scale. And so our job, our opportunity, our time right now is to say very clearly that you do not have to go back to the failures of Andrew Cuomo. You can actually change the game with a new generation of leadership in Michael Blake.
So, so you're having this particular debate. When you look at polling, it's not good for your campaign and really most of the candidates. So much attention has been placed on Andrew Cuomo and incumbent Adams. Got Council President Adrian Adams as well. And so how do you set yourself apart and what are you doing when it comes to reaching the voters for them to select you?
Yeah, so most of these polls right now have been based on name recognition. Number 2 in the polls is effectively undecided. And so when we think about what's happening on tomorrow night, 7 to 9, when people can actually watch us on Channel 4 to see that there is a difference, we can finally have a moment to break out. What we've said is look at the organizational momentum that we have had. We've had 16,000 people that signed our petitions across New York City. We have endorsements, second most clergy endorsements in the race. 3 Bridges Democratic Club in the Lower East Side, Engage Action across the city, multiple electors that we'll announce on tomorrow as well. And so our opportunity is that we finally will have people paying attention to the race, Roland. And as I said often, you know, as someone who worked for President Obama for close to 7 years, many times throughout that election, that first election, people said this man does not have a chance because of name recognition on Hillary Clinton. They said the same thing because they weren't taking someone seriously when it came to Donald Trump. We think about where we're at right now. 4 years ago, Eric Adams took the lead at the end of May. Before that, Bill de Blasio was behind. Our job is that now that people finally have a chance to see the difference, that I'm going to lay out the case. Do you actually want to address affordability by ending credit scores that hurt Black and brown folk? Do you actually want to have civics, financial literacy, and mental health to help our students go to school? Do you finally want to address having 1,000 mental health professionals when it comes to subways and streets? If you believe in that, do not go back to Cuomo, change the game and go with Michael Blake.
When we talk about issues, crime is always the issue. Influx of migrants is an issue as well, but specifically we know Black voters play a huge role. What are you saying to Black voters about why they should pick you?
That we can do both at the same time, Roland. That we can say very clearly that, yes, we need to have 1,000 mental health professionals out on our subways and streets because that has been the primary issue that has been happening around keeping people safe, while also making sure that police officers have their body cameras on so there's actual accountability happening at the same time. So they can do precision policing and go to the neighborhoods with the greatest level of crimes that have been happening. When we think about what's going on, overwhelmingly, though, we have to close Rikers because that is a place that is the second largest mental health institution in the country right now. But we also got to make sure that people actually have money in their pockets so they're not going to Rikers and being arrested and jumping turnstiles in the first place. So we are saying increase wages, guarantee jobs, have a guaranteed income, make sure people can actually have truly affordable housing, take those steps so that someone's not taking the wrong road. And if you do that, then on the front end, we can address what's happening around public safety. And in the longer term, we can make sure if someone's not getting incarcerated in the system in the first place. That's how you change the game. And as someone who endured police brutality twice in my life, when I was an assembly member, as well as an elected official, as well as a high school student, I've seen it on both sides, but it does not mean that I don't want to go home safe. Whether it be the police or the community, everyone wants to get home alive. And so we must have public safety that has criminal justice and also accountability at the same time.
Questions from the panel. Mustafa, you first.
Brother Blake, it's good to see you.
Always.
I used to live in New York a while ago, and I used to, I pay attention to the various people who became mayors. One, I know you have to be a great practitioner and a great strategist, but I think there are also some characteristics that are necessary to be, a leader of one of the most powerful cities in the world. What are those characteristics that you would bring to the mayorship to be able to not only inspire, but to also make sure people understood that you are taking the job extremely seriously?
Well, first and foremost, management. You got to show people that you can manage. And I have managed a team of 15,000 people when I was National Deputy Director of Operations for President Obama. We can show people what's possible to that degree. Second, we can go a step further in terms of how do we actually demonstrate that we're caring about the kids in this nonsensical environment of Trump and Elon and their foolishness. And so given what I've said, my brother's keeper, saying that we're going to sue so that ICE is not in our places of worship, our schools and our community centers, making it very clear that we're not going to allow them to cut Medicaid and Medicare in our communities. That kind of demonstration of the characteristics is someone who has compassion while also being responsible. I'm also a husband. I'm also a bonus father. I'm an alpha. I'm a reverend. I'm a Prince Hall Mason. I'm a 100 Black man. I understand the walk of what's happening on the block. And people need to know that you can elect someone who can rock a suit and also put on Timbs at the same time, that can actually be connected to the people and ride the train while also leaving in a corporate meeting. I have the experience as a small business owner. I have the experience as a national democracy leader. But at the end of the day, I understand that in this moment where Donald Trump is going to try to cut our funding, I'm not going to sacrifice equity for everyone. I'm going to make sure that Black and brown folk actually are protected. And that's the kind of characteristics you need in this moment right now.
Julian?
See you and congratulations. I hope you'll do well. My mayor in DC has had to shilly-shally around the person, the president, has had to shilly-shally around him. And you will likely be asked to do the same. How will you manage the demands that come from the feds around things like HUD housing? Many things that the New York City really needs. How will you manage that person?
Well, you taught me a new word right there, shilly-shally. I'm learning right now, new vibes right here. So, look, I think first and foremost, you got to hold on to your ethics. And one of the reasons why we're all running for mayor is that Eric Adams made a decision that it was more important for him to kiss up to Trump rather than actually help the people. And when we think about the opportunity that exists, I've said very consistently, we're not going to agree to unconstitutional actions. And if Trump and Elon try to cut our funds, we will go to companies that are contracting with New York City and say to them, you will not send your dollars to DC if you want to keep this contract. We're not going to allow you to have unconstitutional actions and hurt our people. We understand you got to check a bully with power. And that's what I would do very consistently and continuously. And so to that degree, I am not here to allow for Donald Trump to be successful when he's hurting our people. I am here to help our people. And that is what you have to demonstrate. Lastly, we got to think about this. They only seem to be focusing on going after Black power. Tish James here in New York, Ras Baraka in Newark, Brandon Johnson. We're seeing this over and over. Congressman McKibben, we're seeing this all over and again. And so I'm not going to lose protecting my Blackness and our Blackness while ensuring at the same time we're protecting our people. We must do both, and we will do both. I learned that from being in the White House. I'm going to do it again.
Thanks.
Joe.
Blake, appreciate what it is that you're doing. I want you to talk a little bit. Give us a one-on-one on ranked choice voting. I think it's very interesting that New York City, like some other places, does ranked choice voting, and how it encourages people to analyze and look at all of the candidates, because it's not going to be just that your first choice is something that you ought to look at and be sure about, but it's also about looking at other choices and how this system might be a wild card that allows you to emerge.
Absolutely. It's one of the reasons why I say to everyone that pretty much everyone in this race still has a very good chance, because unless someone gets 50% on a first ballot, which seems very unlikely, the way it works is that every round of votes will continue by the lowest vote getter being eliminated. So to everybody that's watching, everybody that's listening, my name is Michael Blake. I am 9th on the ballot out of 11 candidates. It's a random order. I am asking that you rank me as your first choice. Absentee voting is happening right now. Early voting starts June 14th. June 24th is primary day. If I'm not your first choice, you can pick up to 5 people that are on your ballot. And so very concretely, if I'm not your first, I want to be your second. If I'm not your second, I want to be your third. Because if we do that, every round, it's going to keep growing. It's going to keep building from there. And so the way you grow is not necessarily being the second choice to an Andrew Cuomo. It's about being a second choice to the other candidates that can't advance. And my job is to show people that are thinking about those other candidates that won't advance why I should be their second and third choice. Because that's how you actually gain votes in the end. And I do believe we can demonstrate in a very concrete way across the city, starting out our base in the Bronx, which has the busiest polling place in America at Co-op City, to what we can do out in Queens, in Rochdale Village and Left Rock City, to what we can build out in Manhattan, where we're going to do very well in Harlem and Lower East Side, to what we can do out in Central Brooklyn. Being Jamaican absolutely helps me, to what we're going to do in Staten Island. We're not just in the North Shore where it has a black base, but in the South Shore where you have a lot of moderates that like what we're doing. It's about gaining enough of that support across the city, understanding you're not going to win by just getting first choices. You have to have second and third choices to be able to win this thing. That's what happened 4 years ago. That's what's going to happen this time around. And that's why I want to keep reminding people, you have the power. Rank 1 through 5 for mayor, for comptroller, for public advocate, for borough president, but rank Michael Blake your first choice. If I'm not your first choice, I want to be your second choice. We have the information at blake4nyc.com, blake4nyc.com. And if you're still trying to decide on who should be your 1 through 5, I don't want you to take away from Roland tomorrow, but I need you to watch our debate tomorrow night so you can finally see the difference between us and Andrew Cuomo and everyone else in the field.
Here doing some work while you were talking. Mike, we still appreciate it. Good luck.
Always appreciate y'all.
All right, thanks a bunch. Folks, Ras Baraka, who is the mayor of Newark, who's running for governor of New Jersey, is going to be joining us on tomorrow's show. He's firing back with a federal lawsuit after what he calls a politically charged arrest. He's suing Alina Habba. Y'all know who she is, the nutcase Trump lawyer who's a U.S. attorney for New Jersey. And so he's filed that particular lawsuit against her as a result of the actions when he was arrested. Of course, detained last month outside of the ICE facility there in New Jersey. He says he was led into a gated area by security to help calm a protest, but he still got arrested and held for more than 5 hours. The trespassing charge was later dropped, but not before federal prosecutor Alina Habba, Trump's former lawyer, accused him publicly of ignoring the law. He says that was defamation, plain and simple. Now he's suing Habba and a Homeland Security agent for false arrest and malicious prosecution. Baraka says this is not about revenge, it's about accountability. What say you, Joe?
Yeah, I'm glad he's doing it. And thing one has occurred, and that is the dropping of the charge, right? And so, we ought to, and he ought to be bringing a claim. He gets led in by security. He's there for a totally different reason. He's not there to cause a ruckus. He's not there to do, no. He's actually there to do his job, do his oversight-related job, to be representative of the people, and then he gets hammed up. And at the end of the day, they drop the charges because they knew they didn't have anything. And so therefore, that U.S. attorney ought to face some ramifications related to that. And so I'm glad he's doing it, and we'll see what happens with it.
Mustafa?
I mean, you got to stand up for what's right, and he's doing that. And by doing so, he is also making sure that others understand that they have power in this moment. There are so many folks who are shook right now. They're afraid to say anything. They're afraid to do anything, and they're afraid to stand up. So I'm glad that he is taking the actions that he is.
Julian?
I agree with my colleagues here. He didn't do anything wrong. The whole thing was a hot monkey mess, including the man putting his hands on the congresswoman from New Jersey. And of course, your visceral reaction when someone pushes you is a push back. And so they have not yet arrested her. They claim they're going to. I think they're going to think better of it, especially as Ras Baraka has attempting now, and laudably so, to keep these people accountable. They are simply unaccountable. They are running roughshod through our Constitution, roughshod through any more rays of decency, and they need to be stopped. And the only way they're going to be stopped is if people like Ras Baraka stand up, as opposed to others who simply go along to get along.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. All right, folks, got to go to a break. We come back more Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, including these idiots cutting off Social Security benefits for students. Yep, the stupidity continues. Back in a moment.
This week on the other side of change.
Mass incarceration, Trump administration is doubling down on criminalization, and how it is profitable.
And there's something really, really perverse about saying that we need to put people in cages in order for other people to have jobs. Like, that is not how our economy should be built.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We featured the brand new work of Professor Angie Porter, which, simply put, is a revolutionary reframing of the African experience in this country. It's the one legal article everyone, and I mean everyone, should read. Professor Porter and Dr. Valencia Watkins, our legal roundtable team, join us to explore the paper that I guarantee is going to prompt a major aha moment in our culture.
You crystallize it by saying, who are we to other people? Who are African people to others? Governance is our thing. Who are we to each other? The structures we create for ourselves, how we order the universe as African people.
That's next on The Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
In France, me and Tony, and accidentally went to the Louvre, right? I had never been, and I saw a side door. And we got off the little bus. I said, come on, Tony, let's go to the Louvre. I mean, I'm just like, let's go to the Louvre, right?
We're here.
This black girl is at the door with this white guy, black African girl. And she says, oh my gosh, Vanessa Bell Calloway. And I'm like this, you know me? And come to find out we were at the wrong door. But she said, I'm gonna let you just go in here. But I was in Paris, France. And that shocked me. She knew my name, she knew me. She knew my movie. You know, so it's like, you just gotta, they say, build and they will come. Put it out there, people will find it, they will come.
Hi, I am Tommy Davidson. I play Oscar on Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. I don't play Sammy, but I could. Or I don't play Obama, but I could. I don't do Stallone, but I could do all that. And I am here with Roland Martin on Unfiltered.
The Vera Institute of Justice, one of the nation's leading voices on criminal justice reform, they have filed a class action lawsuit against the Department of Justice for the canceling of some 800 $820 million in grants. This is a huge, huge decision. We have seen the vicious attacks by the Trump administration against criminal justice reform organizations. I've talked to various different folks about this, and they talk about how they've been devastated by this. Literally, programs have had to shut down. All sorts of different things have been going on as a result of this. Literally, some on the brink of collapse. Insha Rahman, Vice President of Advocacy in partnership with the Vera Institute, joins us right now. Glad to have you on the show. For people who don't really understand, they hear $820 million in grants. How many different organizations are we talking about in how many states?
So $820 million in federal grants impacted over 700 organizations, including some local government agencies across 37 states. So it really is delivering safety and programs and services that save lives across big cities, urban, rural areas of this country, across the political spectrum. So these cuts, every single person in this country should be worried about them and should be angered by them, because it's fundamentally making every single American less safe to cut this kind of funding.
So again, so we talk about people who are in states, organizations, but those organizations, that's people, that's staffers, that's people with jobs, those are people with families. And so the downstream impact, you are affecting states, organizations, individuals, and these are people literally walking into work and folks are going, I'm sorry, we gotta let you go.
Yeah, that's right. So this organization, administration, the Department of Justice, has justified these cuts by saying these are just woke nonprofits that are doing who knows what, but it's not actually public safety work. That's just not true. Every single person understands that it takes both government as well as community-based organizations to make our communities safe. So when a mom calls 911 because her son is in mental health crisis, what does she want? She doesn't want a police officer armed, like ready to shoot. She wants a mental health trained professional. Or when there is beef in the neighborhood and there has been gun violence and we need to prevent retaliation, it's oftentimes the local organizers and safety workers, they're called community violence intervention workers, who are the folks who know where the conflict is happening and know how to diffuse it so that there isn't the retaliatory violence. That's the kinds of programs that this administration cut by cutting off $820 million in grants. And look, this is going to impact communities that have seen huge gains in public safety. And we're talking in cities as diverse as Detroit and Baltimore, St. Louis, smaller rural parts of the country who have seen huge declines in homicides and especially gun violence. All of that is jeopardized by these cuts. So everyday people truly should be upset because of what it means for public safety. And then there are thousands of workers who are trained experts in making communities safe and preventing gun violence, in providing mental health assistance, and working with victims of domestic violence and other kinds of crime that are suddenly out of a job.
Angela, to your point about the impact in terms of organizations and how they came to this decision, I mean, they just okay, all of us DEI, all of it, like whatever. There was no analysis. There was no breakdown. There was no, okay, what do these folks do? They just, one fell swoop, everybody got to go.
That's right. You know, there's a DOJ staffer, he's a 28-year-old, who literally programmed some kind of AI algorithm, and it cut the over 700 organizations and government agencies that lost their funding. And as soon as those cuts happened, I mean, we're talking like domestic violence shelters, victim recovery and trauma programs. Chuck Grassley, who is no lefty, he's no DEI, like, you know, lefty liberal by any stretch of the imagination. He actually called the administration immediately after these cuts happened and said, hey, you just cut off funding we need for a trauma recovery center in my district in Iowa. That was one of the grants that got turned right back on within the days after these cuts were announced last month. And it's because they just didn't think think about it. They didn't even think politically about it. And so when this administration justifies these cuts by saying, well, we only went after the woke nonprofits and the stuff that doesn't even work for public safety, that's simply not true, because they fixed some of their mistakes, not enough, but some almost immediately when they started to hear outcry. It just goes to show they're not thinking about the American people or what actually works to make us safer, make life more stable and secure for all of us. And again, it's why we should all be angry at these cuts. And it's why my organization, the Vera Institute of Justice, which was actually the first organization to have all of its federal funding from the Department of Justice cut back in early April. These cuts happened about 3 weeks later. It's why we decided to take the lead and sue. And how we're suing is as a class action lawsuit. And what that means is that even if everybody didn't join the lawsuit, and a lot of organizations were like, look, I can't be public. I am scared of this administration, or I have other federal grants that I don't want to lose. But if we win, then we will actually get to benefit all of the organizations that had their money cut. So it's not just about us. It's about the entire field and making sure that we turn back on the funding for the programs and services that save lives and make our communities safe.
Mustafa, I'm going to start with you. We actually saw the exact same thing happen in the environmental space. And it requires, frankly, an organization like the Vera Institute to say, hey, we're going to do this to represent the much smaller groups that, frankly, can't afford this type of action. Mustafa?
Yeah, many don't have the capacity. They don't have the resources to have the attorneys to be able to fight it. First of all, thank you for all that you're doing. I think it might be helpful for the country to have an understanding that if we're not able to reverse this, what does the country look like? What are the real impacts that happen both in rural and urban communities across our country over the next few years?
So Mustafa, let me give two examples of the negative impact that we can expect and that we will see unless these funds are reinstated. One is, I mentioned a city like Detroit. It's seen huge gains in public safety. Literally last year, shootings were at a 57-year low. I mean, that is a remarkable stat for a city that many people thought of as the murder capital just even a decade ago. And that incredible reduction in gun violence has come about because of federal and local funding that the mayor, the police chief, many community-based organizations, they came together and they said, okay, how do we work together to focus on where violence is happening, to intervene and prevent gun violence in the first place, to set up the kinds of programs and interventions for young people to keep them out of harm's way. And you can see the results. And with, literally in Detroit alone, they lost over $10 million worth of federal funding for community violence intervention programs. Like, we are going to see a loss in public safety. We might see more gun violence because of these cuts unless it's reversed. Another example, one of the organizations that actually did a lot of work with local rural police departments, worked with over 30 rural police departments across the country to make sure that these police departments know how to respond to violent crime. And violent crime does occur in rural America. It's not just a big city problem. All of us want to be safe. They cut those funds too. And so we already know that violence is actually quite high and crime rates are quite high in rural America. Nobody talks about it, but it's true. And you can see, again, any public safety gains we've made because of these programs in rural communities, they're going to be lost unless we reinstate these funds. So this isn't a big city problem. It is a problem for all of us, and we need all of America to sit up and pay attention to this. And there's a really clear solution, which is right now, the U.S. Senate is debating a budget reconciliation bill. And, when it went through the House and got passed just last week, none of those Republicans thought to put in those $820 million in lost funding. The Senate, we hope, has more sense than the House, and they actually put this money back in. So if anybody's watching, they're like, what can I do? Call your senator right now and insist the $820 million that was cut from the Department of Justice for important, life-saving, community-based public safety programs, reinstate those funds.
Joe.
Thank you so much for what it is that you're doing. Roland got to it just a little bit, but what I'd like you to do as an attorney is just give us a quick primer for layman's terms as to what actually it means when we allege that something is arbitrary and capricious. This is something, of course, it looks to be a centerpiece of you guys' claim, and it makes a whole lot of sense. Explain that to folks so that they really understand it.
Joe, I love that you brought up what's the basis for the lawsuit. So the Department of Justice basically cut all of these grants. They sent all of the organizations that lost funding, basically the exact same form letter. And what they claimed is that the work that we do no longer aligns with this administration's priorities for preventing violent crime, serving victims of crime, even though everything we do is absolutely aligned with those priorities, because it's not just this administration's priorities, it's all of our priority. In fact, it's not this administration's priority. And so the fact that they sent us a form letter, the fact that they used an AI tool to just cut these grants, and the fact that they actually had to reverse their own mistakes very quickly when people like Chuck Grassley called, shows that these cuts were arbitrary, meaning they weren't done with any, sort of individualized consideration, and that they were capricious. They were for means that weren't really about public safety. And so that was the basis of the lawsuit. We're represented by an organization called Democracy Forward, who've been bringing lots of lawsuits challenging this administration and its unlawful, cuts to federal funding. And so the idea is, we as organizations, we have a stake in this funding because we rely on it to do the important work that we do, to pay our staff, to make sure that our constituents and the people who benefit from our programs are served. So that's one basis for the claim. It's a basic contracts reliance claim. And then the second is that even if you were going to cut these funds, you need to do them in a way that complies with what's called the Administrative Procedure Act. It basically means that government needs to act in a way that is actually rational and reasonable, and the way that the administration made these cuts violates that, and so it's arbitrary and capricious. And what we've seen from other lawsuits is that these kinds of claims have been successful. We're not commenting on the lawsuit. It's an open question, but we are looking forward to having this issue resolved in court.
Julian.
One of the things that stood out for me as I looked at what was cut was services for deaf people. We have had several deaf African Americans, so it doesn't matter whether they're African American or not, deaf people who were killed because they didn't understand police commands or orders. And one of the things that I believe some of these grants were for was to have deaf people able to translate for deaf people. So this strikes me as just extremely harsh, especially when you look at the people who've been killed because they didn't understand police orders. Can you tell me more about that and whether or not this is a special area that VERA is looking into? By the way, I really, over the years, have enjoyed VERA's research and work. It's a really very important organization. So thanks for being with us and thanks for what you do.
Well, I should say thank you so much for having this conversation, all of you. I think it's a vital conversation that impacts all of us. So you raised such a good point about people with disabilities and being underserved by the criminal justice system and specifically at risk during a police interaction. So we know over 1,000 people are killed by police every year, and a disproportionate number of them are people who have a disability, like they are deaf or they have a mental illness and they can't understand the police commands. And so one of the programs the funding was cut was specifically to work with police departments and make sure they have access to ASL interpreters and to language assistance so that victims of crime who are deaf and have disabilities could actually access and benefit from law enforcement services. So it is really every sympathetic population, people who have disabilities, specifically to serve victims of crime, and it was to make sure law enforcement works better. There's everything about this that delivers public safety, nothing about this that is anti-police or woke or whatever else this administration wants to say. And yet that was exactly one of the kinds of programs that was cut. It's a great example of just, again, how arbitrary and capricious these cuts were and why they actually are, opposite to public safety. And I think the average person, you don't even have to, be political about this or sort of think the police act with brutality, even though we know they do sometimes. I think even to the average person, that would feel absurd to cut funding for services that make the police do their jobs better.
All right, then. And I just checked, and this is always interesting to me. When I went to Google and I typed in Vera Institute class action lawsuit, virtually no coverage. I see ABC News did something. I look at the something called The Trace and other, but pretty much mainstream media is totally ignoring this.
Yeah. Mainstream media is ignoring this because mainstream media isn't focusing on the things that everyday people care about. People want to know that I have money in my wallet, food on the table, a roof over my head, and that I am safe and my kids are safe. And this is an issue that I think feels so overwhelming to people that it just doesn't get the kind of attention that it should. And yet it is such an important issue to people. It's a kitchen table issue. It truly is. And so mainstream media is actually doing us a disservice, and they're missing where the American public is by not giving this any coverage. And so I'm grateful we're having this conversation here, and I'm urging folks to go talk about this in your local press because, again, funding for public safety and the things that actually save lives is about as important as it gets to us.
All right, then. We surely appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a bunch. Folks, going to a break. We come back. More drama for St. Augustine's University. This time, its own board chair. You would think a university having financial problems would not have somebody chair of their board who has his own financial problems. That is not the case. We'll explain next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
Next on The Black Table with me, Greg Carr. We featured the brand new work of Professor Angie Porter, which, simply put, is a revolutionary reframing of the African experience in this country. It's the one legal article everyone, and I mean everyone, should read. Professor Porter and Dr. Valencia Watkins, our legal roundtable team, join us to explore the paper that I guarantee is going to prompt a major aha moment in our culture.
You crystallize it by saying, who are we to other people? Who are African people to others? Governance is our thing. Who are we to each other? The structures we create for ourselves, how we order the universe as African people.
That's next on The Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
This is Essence Atkins.
Mr. Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
It's me, Sherry Shepard, and you know what you watch.
You're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Congressman Jerry Nadler of New York calling for a full investigation after a disturbing incident took place in his Manhattan congressional office. Folks, it all started when Nadler's team offered a safe space to immigrant rights advocates who had just witnessed a federal raid on migrants outside an immigration court. Moments later, officers with the Federal Protective Service stormed into the office, accusing them of harboring rioters. When the staff was pushed back, things got physical. Videos showed the aide in tears as she cuffed and was taken away. Nadler was on the CNN explaining why he thinks this happened. Before I play that, though, I want you to begin that video so y'all can hear exactly what happened in this video. Play it.
No, she did not. That is not what happened.
That is not what happened. Okay?
What?
Hold on a second.
Give me your contact information right
No,
now.
I'm going to give you time to speak to you.
Hey, I'll speak to you.
I got you.
No. I got you.
You're okay. I don't have to.
You're okay. You're okay. You're going to be okay.
I'm a federal officer. We're here checking on something. We have the right to check. I'm giving you.
Yes, crossroad.
Stop resisting. You're harboring rioters in the office. So there's not a problem. Let's walk inside. Let's walk through.
For what?
Let me see what's in here. Let's go. Come on. Hold it there.
Lying story about what happened. They were, DHS was upset that some of my staff members were watching them grab immigrants emerging from an immigration court in the same building, a floor below. And they were upset that my staff invited some of the observers up to my office. They then came up to the office and demanded entrance. One of my staff members said, "You can't come in here, you need a warrant." They said, "No, we don't need a warrant," which is incorrect. And they barged in, and in barging in, one of the officers, a very big, heavy-set fellow, pushed my aide, a very petite young woman, and they then said that she pushed back, and they shackled her and took her downstairs.
Now, the actions of these folks, I mean, the Trump and his thugs have emboldened these thugs to act the way they behave. Then you have these ICE agents who, a lot of people don't even know if they're actually ICE agents, arresting people, targeting people, wearing a mask. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries was asked about this. This was his response to these folks and their actions.
Thanks. Leader Jeffries, you had said after Congresswoman McIver was, I think you said, physically accosted by ICE officials that you wanted them identified, the officials that accosted them. Have they been identified, and what do you expect from, or do you want the agents that were harassing Jerry Nadler's staffers in his district office also identified? What's the latest, or how are Democrats going to respond to the jury?
Every single ICE agent who's engaged in this aggressive overreach and are trying to hide their identities from the American people will be unsuccessful in doing that. This is America. This is not the Soviet Union. We're not behind the Iron Curtain. This is not the 1930s. And every single one of them, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will of course be identified. That, in fact, is the law. And we're going to make sure that the American people have the transparency necessary to hold people accountable when they're folks who cross the line here in America. That's what's going to happen. And as I mentioned earlier, and I spoke to Congressman Nadler about this, our first priorities are always going to be making sure the person who was on the front line is in the best possible place to move forward. That's the case with LaMonica McIver, and it is also the case with Congressman Nadler's brave, young, patriotic staffer. And we've got to address those issues first. That's the human thing to do, while simultaneously, of course, preparing to deal with the broader policy implications, which, as I mentioned, are underway. Thanks.
Julian, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, we're seeing how, again, thugs.
Absolutely, hoodlums. If this, I mean, it's absurd. As the young lady was described as petite, and you're talking about a very large officer, that unequal power, unequal physicality. But there's so many other aspects of this. These people have been emboldened by the man who lives in the house that enslaved people built. They have been emboldened to put their hands on people, to push people, to be aggressive. And the issue is who's going to stand up. I mean, I think we've talked a couple of times in just this couple of hours about the misuse of power, how people misuse power because they can, simply because they can. And so thank you, Congressman Nadler, for standing up for your staffer. Wouldn't expect anything less of you, but thank you anyway. And this has to be pursued. Just like Ras Baraka has sued those ICE people who illegally arrested him and are talking about arresting Congresswoman McIver, just like they're standing up, Nadler stands up, but we have to stand up too. We have to be able to say this is unacceptable. And, you know, we've got to flood the courts because the courts seem to be the only recourse we have. And that's even a very slim recourse. We look at the fact that that man, that's all I can call him is that man, essentially almost owns the Supreme Court. We have, you know, two people of hope. You know, Comey Barrett is a constitutionalist. We can count on her sometimes. Roberts,
right.
Chief Justice, count on him sometimes. But we're in precarious position.
Joe, you can't play footsie with thugs.
No, you cannot. And they need to keep hauling them into court. I share Julian's sentiment that sometimes the court doesn't move the way it needs to, and sometimes it moves slow as well. But here's the other point. People have to really just become aware of what's going on and how the deprivation of rights for one is the deprivation of rights for all. And people from bottom up between meetings, town halls, and all of these other things, people have to really speak up and be confident in the notion that when they see something that's morally wrong or that's legally wrong, that's exactly what it is, and it can't be taken and spun into being something else. And then make sure, in the meantime and in the future, we're speaking the way we need to at the polls. There has to be clarity. The reason why the executive is doing so much of this is because this is not going to be popular with the people. It's almost as if they don't really fear voting ramifications, as if maybe they know something we don't about who will be able to vote or how many votes they'll be able to be or the integrity of the vote and all those other things. People have to speak with their feet, with their hands, with their voices, and with their votes.
Mustafa?
You know, I wake up every day and I often feel like I'm in a dystopian novel, an Octavia Butler classic, if you will, because like for the FPS, you know, I've known a number of people who've been a part of the FPS. They have a responsibility of protecting government buildings and the people inside of them. But yet I see folks now taking on characteristics and doing things that I've never seen them do in the past. And, you know, for the folks in the various three-letter organizations that I've known over the years also, you know, my question to you is, I know you know better. And when are you going to do better? I understand it's a job. I understand you take orders from those above, but there comes a moment in time when you have to say, this is not right. This is not what America should be. And this cannot be what America becomes because we will no longer have an America. Even though it has never been perfect, we've always had the opportunity to move it in a positive direction. And when you do these types of things, you erode people's confidence, even if it's a small amount of confidence or a larger amount. And we've got to change this. So all the things that both Julian and Joe said are incredibly important. It is about, you know, making sure that we vote. It is about making sure that we get engaged. But it is also about us also making sure that people are being held accountable. And we hold people accountable by using our voices in this moment, along with the court system.
Folks, drama at two HBCUs. We'll first start with Texas Southern University in Houston. Late last night, this memo was circulated by University President J.W. Crawford III. It said, "Dear Tigers and Tiger families, in the coming days, you may see media coverage regarding allegations of misconduct involving a senior member of the Texas Southern University leadership team. This afternoon, the university was made aware of these serious allegations through the filing of a civil lawsuit. While the university is not named as a party in the litigation, please be assured that Texas Southern University takes all allegations of misconduct seriously. In alignment with our policies and values, we have initiated an independent investigation to ensure a fair and thorough review of the matter. The executive in question has been placed on administrative leave. The safety and well-being of all members of our community, students, student-athletes, faculty, and staff remain our highest priority. Due to the sensitive nature of this matter and to preserve the integrity of the investigative process, University will not offer any further comments at this time. Thank you for your understanding and continued support." Well, it wasn't a few days. It was actually made public today in terms of what took place, and that is the head of athletics at Texas Southern University, go ahead and pull it, Kevin Granger, has been placed on administrative leave as a result of a lawsuit being filed by a female employee who alleges sexual assault as well as sexual harassment. This here is the lawsuit. The plaintiff, she files it against Kevin Granger for sexual assault and harassment. According to this lawsuit, she alleges that what took place on April 30th, an incident took place in his office. Now, she details other actions that he was engaged in, that wrongful communications and things along those lines. And she felt uncomfortable in his presence following a baseball game in late April, and then he made an offhand comment to her. Then on April 29th, he asked her to come to his office to grab some documents, and then that's when she said bizarre behavior took place. She said that he asked her, "Are you wearing a wire?" Was she recording him? She said she felt uncomfortable due to his intimidating physical size as a former NBA player as well. It says defendant Granger continued to pursue his line of questioning with increasing vulgarity, asking the last time she had sexual intercourse. He requests to see her vagina and perform oral sex on her. He groped her breast and grabbed her arm, manipulating her hand onto his erect penis. She said Ms. Henry physically froze as he continued to make vulgar requests, and then she eventually was able to get out. And again, as the letter said, he's been placed on administrative leave. These are allegations filed against her. But again, she alleges this took place a little more than 1 month ago. And of course, there's been no comment thus far from his legal team. Just going to double check here. A story here. The lawsuit was filed by the Busby law firm. That's who she hired in this particular case to file the lawsuit. Let's see here. They have redacted the name in their statement, but it's actually in the actual lawsuit. It was not filed under a, it was not filed. And so, this is, again, a female employee of Texas Southern University. Again, the lawsuit was actually filed in court. That was the case there. Let's talk about what's happening at St. Augustine's University. We have been covering the absolute drama at TSU for quite some time. Just again, absolute craziness going on there. This time involves the board chair. Now we've covered this story before. Which is just insane. Let me prepare y'all for this. Now, we know the problems, the financial issues there at St. Augustine's. But check this out, y'all. Brian Boulware, who is the chairman of the board, okay, facing backlash after 3 cigar businesses that he owned filed for bankruptcy, halting a lawsuit over a $600,000 loan he took from a former trustee, George Brooks. A judge ruled that Boulware spent the money on personal luxuries, including a Range Rover, hotels, and even paid a St. Augustine's University employee, calling his business nothing more than a front for personal expenses. However, just before a key hearing, Boulware's companies filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, effectively freezing the case. Now Brooks' legal team is pushing to hold Boulware personally accountable. With SAU's accreditation on the line this summer, critics say it's time for a leadership change. Julian, can you imagine a university with financial problems has a board chair with financial problems? That's the last person you want leading you right now.
Too many members of boards of trustees use the university for their own personal purposes. This guy should never have been a board chair, ever, ever, ever. And his colleagues should never have lent him any money. I mean, you don't lend, my mother used to always say, never ask a naked person to lend you a dress. In other words, this dude don't have no money. Why would you lend money to somebody who don't have no money? And I'm being deliberately grammatical, Roland, just so you know. But I mean, it's absurd, but it saddens me, Roland, to see our HBCUs in this kind of trouble. We know that we have extra scrutiny on us. We know that much of the money that we get, we depend on Title III. That's going to be cut, and this just gives the devil more opportunities to talk about how irresponsible we are. With the sexual harassment case as well, don't you know any better? Don't you know any women? I mean, you don't know any women except for people who work for you? That makes no sense at all. But what these guys, and it is guys, I'm sure women probably do this too, but I don't know of it. These guys are taking the whole HBCU brand and tarnishing it with their ridiculous behavior. And it's really sad, and we need to just run them both out the race.
This is crazy, Mustafa. Again, the lawsuit, you borrow money from a former trustee, you don't pay it back, he's suing you, all this back and forth, and you're the chair of the board when you're having massive financial issues.
My grandmother says, when you know better, do better. This is just messy and trashy and all the things that you should never be associated with. I was on 11 boards. I'm on 10 boards now. I make sure that I never do business with anyone who's a part of the boards, let alone a board chair. You just don't put yourself in those types of ethical situations along with the legal situations. And Julianne, she captured it perfectly because we are under such scrutiny right now. And you continue to give people, the ammunition to continue to, just hurt our communities and to hurt our academic institutions. So it's just a shame. I mean, it's beyond shameful because we have a responsibility. Those of us who have been blessed with some level of access, some people might say a little bit of privilege. We have a responsibility to protect our institutions. We have a responsibility to protect our people. And folks just aren't taking it serious. So when you don't take it serious, even though I'm always about the upliftment of Black folks, you deserve to get what you get.
Joe is crazy. It's insane.
Through that big time. And ultimately, and interestingly, what they're trying to do is pierce the corporate veil. I tell people this all the time, your quick little 101. Don't open up, now this is a different thing, but don't open up your little LLC and think that people can't pierce the corporate veil and get at you. I tell people most of the time, open a corporation and keep it formal. And so that it's less likely that someone could sue you, add you as an individual, and successfully pierce the corporate veil because you don't have if you're just using it as a shell company or whatever else, which is where they're going now, because what they should have done is pierce it in the first place. Now they're trying to do it once the companies file bankruptcy, name him as an individual in the first place. If they didn't, pierce the corporate veil at the same time, hopefully get the judgment against him and against the corporation all at once. Now they're trying to do that the other way, but let this be a cautionary tale aside from HBUs and colleges and making sure that they have the right leadership and fiscally responsible leadership, but in you and handling your own business, Corporation X, Corporation Y, Corporation C, keep separation so that no one can come and pierce the corporate veil, because now it's totally defeating the purpose on the corporate protection that you thought you were getting by forming a corporation.
That's just crazy to me. That's just absolutely insane to me that this person would be the board chair. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, and I said long ago that he needs to resign. He damn sure needs to resign as a result of this going public. This just makes no sense whatsoever. Folks, some sad news. Anna Mae Robinson, one of the last surviving members of the famed 688 unit, has passed away. She was 101 years old. Robinson was among the 855 women in the 688th Central Postal Directory Battalion, the only all-black female unit stationed overseas during World War II. The women were sent to Birmingham, England, to clear a nearly 3-year logjam of mail. Sacks of letters were piled ceiling high in a dark and damp warehouse destined for homesick soldiers fighting in Europe. In 2022, Robinson, then 98, and other members of the 688 received the Congressional Gold Medal. one of the highest civilian honors awarded in the United States. And so certainly sad to report her passing. All right, folks. Tonight, in our marketplace segment, we're shining a spotlight on HBCU Legacy Fashion. Joining me right now is founder and North Carolina A&T alum, Shailena Foltz. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Shailena?
Shailena, yep.
Shailena Foltz. All right, so tell us about HBCU Legacy Fashion.
Yeah, so HBCU Legacy Fashion was founded in 2020. I had the idea in 2019 to create some fashion-forward HBCU kids clothes, and it just became something that was a whole thing for the family. So once I started sending out my jackets to the kids, the parents said, you know what, I wish I had something like that. I then thought, why not make something that can extend the legacy of our HBCUs while also giving back to the schools, because all of our products are licensed. And, as an alum of North Carolina A&T State University, I started at that school first, created these denim jackets that everyone loved. The hoods would zip off. And so it became a whole movement. By 2023 or 2022, we were inside of Belk, Essence, Fest, just doing all the things. And so our goal is to continue to extend the legacy of HBCUs, to start with the little ones, to teach them all about their parents' HBCU, and hopes that they will one day go, just to bring a spotlight on HBCUs and to be able to give back.
Well, this is the one of the shirts here, HBCU Legacy. First of all, fantastic colors, I must say, and it's raised leathering. This is leather, and it's a really, really high quality sweatshirt.
Yes, thank you. I knew that you would love those colors. So yeah, that is one of the goals I had for the business, was to create something that was not already on the marketplace. I saw a lot of products that were heat pressed, and I wanted something that would last, through the washes, but not just through the washes, but through the years, so you could pass it on to someone else in your family or another future HBCU legacy. So high quality was one of the things that I really wanted for the products. So.
Same thing. This is a Norfolk State sweatshirt right here, and the same thing. It really is high quality. I'll be honest with you. I really prefer, like when I get products, I really prefer raised lettering, stitching, as opposed to your point about heat press, because when you wash it, you dry it, it begins to break apart. And so this here, really is, and like I say, high quality stitching, but also the fabric itself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for loving it. Yeah, so everything that we make for adults, we make it in kid sizes. It's a mommy and me, daddy and me line. So if you see it in adults, you'll see it in the kid size.
So you did, in terms of how many different schools do you have? How many different sort of SKUs do you have?
Yeah, so as far as the schools, we have about 21 HBCUs that we're licensed for, and we continue to grow each year. We have a variety of SKUs, so whether it's a denim jacket, a cowgirl jacket, something that's a part of our HBCU Legacy collection, the T-shirts, we have the sweatshirts. Again, here's the kids' version of the one that you have.
This is the T-shirt, the black T-shirt here, and same thing. Even with the T-shirt, you have that raised lettering. So that's I rarely see that type on a T-shirt.
Yes, you don't see it. So you saw it here first, okay? HBCU Legacy Fashion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, again, folks, if y'all go to shopblackstarnetwork.com for HBCU Legacy Fashion, you can see the various products. Again, and I'm telling you, like really, really, I'm a firm believer when it comes to T-shirts and sweatshirts, really, really great fabric. And I can tell you this feels absolutely great. And I really do love the raised lettering that's on here as well, and that's really high quality. And so I've seen a lot of stuff, but yeah, I've never seen, especially a lot of HBCU gear, this type of use in raised lettering.
Yeah, the material, the t-shirt material, the sweatshirt material is amazing.
Yep.
It's not a Gildan t-shirt. It's not like your regular tough t-shirt, but it's really nice, very soft, and even like during the summertime, it just feels good. The material feels really good, and you can actually, believe it or not, you can actually wash these in your own washing machine. You can turn them inside out, wash them. They don't have to be dry clean. I've done it several times. Lots of customers do it, and it comes out great.
All right, then. Well, look, we certainly appreciate it. Again, HBCU Legacy Fashion. Go to shopblackstarnetwork.com to check it out. And we appreciate the work you're doing. And so keep it up. First of all, how long have you had the business?
So I started in 2020, May 2020. So we just celebrated 5 years.
Wow, 5 years anniversary. And so things are going well, huh?
Yes, they're doing good. We're growing every day. Like I said, we're in bookstores, campus bookstores, Belk, online, and now you can also find us on your platform. So we're growing.
All right, then. All right, well, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, again, go to shopblackstarnetwork.com to check that out and the other products as well. Let me thank our panel for being on today's show. Mustafa, Joe, Julian, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Folks, don't forget, support the work that we do. Critically important that you join our Brina Funk fan club. We're out here trying to make this thing happen. And so if you want to support us, please do via Cash App. You can, of course, use the Stripe QR code. You can use that for credit card applications as well. And so be sure to check that out. You can also, of course, you can get it there. You can also, of course, send your check and money orders, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also, of course, get our swag by getting your Roland Martin Unfiltered gear, Black Star Network gear, by going to RolandMartin.creator-spring.com, RolandMartin.creator-spring.com to get our shirts, t-shirts, hoodies, wall art. If you have any issues with your products that you've ordered, send us an email so we can alert the company ASAP. Also, be sure to get a copy of my book, White Fear: How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version on Audible, which I read, of course. And of course, folks, don't forget, get the app Fanbase. Download the app. If you want to invest, go to startengine.com/fanbase. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. We're going to take you right to Truth Talks. See y'all tomorrow. Holla!